So, what kind of insurance package can I interest you in? We're running a special on dismemberment policies. Buy one, get one half off.
Hello and welcome to the dungeon. My name's Dan, and in today's video we've been playing a lot of The Outer Worlds, the Fallout game made by Obsidian that's not Fallout. So let's get one thing straight before we go any further. I'm getting really sick and tired of all these Fallout comparisons. Are they appropriate? Maybe. But considering that Fallout 76 had a rocky launch and rocky 1 year anniversary and just a rocky existence in full, it would be very easy for this title, The Outer Worlds, to be the Fallout everyone wanted but couldn't get. I've seen so much praise online about what this game does differently compared to Fallout, and I'm sick of saying Fallout as well. And whilst I think some of that praise is deserved, I think if Fallout 76 wasn't as dire as it currently is, this game wouldn't be getting the praise it is. But enough talk about that, let's get into it. So, in The Outer Worlds, this is a open world spacefaring RPG first-person shooter slash melee game where it has a big emphasis on player choice and joining various groups and companions, that kind of thing. Think other games like that, such as Mass Effect, and with a hint of Bioshock as well, particularly in the art style. You play a random guy or gal on a colony ship which has been drifting in space for quite some time. You're in this solar system which has been taken over by various Earth-based corporations, and you alone have been resuscitated by this Peter Capaldi-looking scientist, and it's your job to try and save the system. How, you might ask? Well, first job is to wake up the rest of the sleeping population, all the thousands and thousands of other people in the spaceship that you came from. Now here is a slight problem with the plot. That's the premise, but at no point is there any history to your character prior to them waking up. So as far as me the player knows, I have no connections at all to the other people who are in hibernation. For all I know, they could all be assholes. Or maybe they think I'm the asshole. In which case, why am I the one who's up and about and they're all safe and sound asleep? Yes, there's not much of a history there. It's basically like you're a newborn and the interesting parts of your life are about to begin. Which is fine, but a good RPG has a lot of background to your character. You know where they came from. See my last video, Greedfold, for more of that. If we were to compare this game to another one which came out in the last few years, say maybe a game like Balls Out 4, in that game you had a child, and when you went to hibernation, someone may or may not have taken your child and killed your significant other, at which case you have to go and get your child back. That is background, that's motive. Here, waking up, saving people, it's a little threadbare. So without spoilers, as the plot progresses, basically you're caught in various disputes amongst various factions. You have to help someone, which in turn will hinder someone else. Maybe there's a third option you can find if you have the good stats for it. And some of these moral choices are pretty severe. We're talking death to a settlement. So if you're into that kind of thing, then have at it. You have a few main plotline quests going to certain places and finding things, going back to the scientist who you can kill if you want to, but I'm sure the game finds a way around that. And then there's a few more things, and that's it. The actual plot storyline of this game is very short actually, and I think that's probably a misstep. For me playing it from start to finish, I really just didn't care about the main storyline that much. I had no reason to care, and there were so few characters to really get invested in. In the final conclusion, the game basically had to pull an enemy from its ass to be the main boss, and effectively it was all over far too soon. I was even thinking towards the end, there's got to be more to it than this, surely, but no, here comes the end, here comes the epilogue, and then roll credits. Okay, that was the Outer Worlds. But to be fair, there is far more to this game than just the plot. This is a game that really wants you to go beyond the main storyline and look at various other people and their quests and what kind of troubles they're going through. It's really here that you'll get the meat and potatoes of these corporations and what it is they do and what someone's life is like. Parvati, who's one of your first companions you meet, is a nice young lady who likes machines, and she works basically Monday through to Sunday, just work, work, work. So having her experience life where that's not the case is quite a nice thing to see. Take Felix for example, he is a box maker of some kind, or box stacker on shelves. Anyway, he's got a very mundane factory job until he meets you, and his enthusiasm for seeing the world beyond his box factory is just charming. There are a few more characters as well that join your party. You can have 2 at most, such as Sam, the cleaning, heavily armed robot, who's basically Crichton from Red Dwarf, but with real gusto for scrubbing stains. Nyoka, who's a hunter, the lady who's a medic, whose name escapes me because she wasn't that memorable, and finally the vicar. Now unfortunately I never got to have the vicar in my party when playing through this game, mainly because I accidentally shot him a few times in the head. But to be fair, the whole town was against me, and yeah, it was them or me, and it wasn't going to be me. Being able to just kill anyone is a nice, fun thing about this game. It is frustrating how so often you're giving this assumed control over your destiny and other people's, but ultimately if the game wants you to go in a certain direction, it will do it. This is no different of course, but just being able to see someone and be like, you know what, I want you to die, pulling out your big handgun and blowing them away, is a pleasure in life that just can't be ignored. One gripe I had though about the companions is that they don't really seem to recognize when you're going on a killing spree. They just join in with you. Take Parvati for example, she joined my party and she was helping me along, and suddenly her hometown became hostile to me, so rather than trying to talk me out shooting them all, she just joined in and got shooting away, bless her. I guess she had a lot of unresolved issues as well. And these companions can also talk to each other, which is very Dragon Agey, and I do appreciate. One of the things that was missing somewhat from Greedfall was the fact that these companions do chit-chat. So take this exchange, for example.
You ever seen a real-life Saltuna?
What do you mean live? Saltuna comes in cans?
Felix, Saltuna is a kind of fish. Lives in the ocean. You knew that, right?
You serious? You tell me there's a fish made entirely out of Saltuna?
Never mind. I'll tell you later.
It's a nice bit of world building which really puts you, the main character, out of it for a while and lets 2 other NPCs just going about their business. Now when looking at the quests themselves, these are very fetch questy. A friend of mine once said that every quest in a video game is in some form a fetch quest, and I agree, but some are more blatant than others. And what's really frustrating is when the distances between these places you need to go to are like 100 feet away. You ask the NPC, why couldn't you go by yourself? And they're like, it's too dangerous. Even though there's a bunch of guards in town and it really wouldn't be too far for you. So why am I doing your dirty work? I said earlier in this video that the game was open world, but that's not really quite right, particularly since it's set in space and you're going to various planets, although not as much as you might think from the star map. Here, there's several planets you can go to, one which is locked at the start of the game, which you won't be able to go to until the end, and the rest are greyed out. And there was no real discussion about these planets which were greyed out, so I'm thinking you just can't go to them at all, unless they might come as DLC down the line. Once again, shamelessly plugging my last video, Greedfall, one of my issues with that game's quest was that it was too in-depth, too detailed. Sometimes you wanted to skip to the end, but you had to go to one place, talk to some more people, get that done, come back, do some more things, yada yada yada. This one almost has the opposite problem. They're too shallow. They seem to be over before they're started. You get your reward and then on to the next one. Other than the companion quests, which were quite fun and detailed, there's not really a lot to really sink your teeth into storyline wise. I think the reason for this is that so many combat situations in this game can be averted quite simply by having the right stats. This is an RPG after all, and you have various ways to try and get through things such as persuade, bribe, intimidate, and if you put a bunch of points into these areas, then yeah, it's basically skipping the challenge and telling someone to let you go through or to get what you need. I mean, if that's the kind of thing you're looking for, then fair play to you. You enjoy playing the game however you wish to. But for me, I found I got more out of it by taking the harder, longer route. Now let's talk about the skills and perks you get. So when you start and create your character, and by the way, customization is quite good in this one. You got a whole range of facial hair, different hairstyles, skin colors, you name it, you can probably do it. So yeah, I like that side of things. And you get to also set your character's stats as well. Now, your stats come in 3 flavors. So for example, let's take guns. You'll have long rifles, shotguns like your pistols, your revolvers, and you'll have your heavy guns. That comes as one stat, the gun stat. Once you allocate a point to your gun stat, all 3 guns get a point as well, so you get better on all of them, not just one, until you get to level 50 on any one of those abilities, at which point then you can start specifically allocating points to them. So there are 10 basic generic skills, so guns being one, you've got science, you've got persuasion, you've got durability, that kind of thing, a whole bunch. Melee is another one, and melee is quite good in this game, a lot of range of options from pipes to bats to scythes. You gotta love a good scythe in the game. But to me, in the early to mid game, when you're allocating 3 points rather than 1 to 3 different stats, it doesn't really feel like you're role playing. It seems to me more like you're just trying to get the most efficient way to a certain playstyle. For example, both intimidate and persuade are part of the, I guess, persuasion skill, but these are really 2 different things. If you want to be a big, bulking intimidation type guy, why would you want to try and even focus on persuasion? You just bully your way through conversation. So I think that was a miscall in my opinion. Then we get to perks, which is something a little more specific to your character, and you have the standard things here like more inventory space, or being able to do more damage when you're below a certain health threshold. So all kinds of things to really add to your character to make them a little bit different. Now, one feature this game was touting during marketing was the fact that if you take certain damage from a certain type of creature, then you can get a deficit against them going forward, like experience, such as you don't like these spider things, so as time goes on, you get weaker to them, but on the plus side, you get a perk as well. To me, I never really saw the downside of having that much effect on me. Whenever the choice would come, and it is a choice for some reason, I would always say, sure, I'll take the hit. But then later on, I just didn't notice it. So for me, it was getting a free perk point, which was nice of the game. I think there could have been more in depth with regards to that aspect. What is cool is going back to your companions that you do have a lot of choice as to how they act in combat. You can give them different weapons, armor, headgear. You can allocate their own perks in a way. You can set their AI skills, so if you want them to be all run and gun, you can do that, or be a bit more subtle, you can do that too. I would recommend definitely trying to have a play with the AI screen, because I've seen it before when you see a mine in front of you, you draw an enemy towards you, and you're dumb as fuck straight towards the mine and hurt themselves in the process, because I guess they can't see mines. Oh, and speaking of things you can't see, this game, I'm afraid, does fail the feat test of a first-person shooter. Need I remind you that Anthem passed that test? For the overall gameplay experience, I do have a few other gripes that gets me, such as the fact that you have to hold buttons down to open doors. I know it's a common feature now in a lot of games, but why do I have to waste time just holding a button down? Just let me open the door. In real life, you press a button, the door opens. Let me do that in a video game as well. You're making it less simple. And it was weird. In one instance, and one instance only, I was going to an NPC with my gun out, my actual firearm, and the NPC was like, put your gun away. So I did. But that only happened once. Every other conversation, I was able to just talk to someone, just my pistol hanging around, you know, doing my thing, and they didn't really seem to care, so okay, fair enough, must be a common thing. And having only 3 types of ammunition is really immersion breaking. So in this you have, as I said, 3 types. You have your heavy ammo, your light ammo, and your energy ammo. And depending on type of weapon you have, depends on what type of ammunition you can use. So energy ammunition, for example, is the same type of thing you might use in a plasma gun, as well as, say, a flamethrower, or a pistol that shoots energy. And I know that in a lot of games it can get really frustrating when you find ammunition for a gun that you just don't have or can't use. So you can have like dozens of different types of bullets. But this is, I think, too far in the opposite direction. Maybe it's special space ammo which can really gel and morph into the type of thing I need for a gun. At which case, why do I need 3? Why not just have 1? It's a small gripe. I'm sure most people wouldn't even care anyway. Ammo's ammo. But it's just my 2 cents. Now on the other hand, one thing I really liked about the gameplay is how you take health. So in a lot of other games, if you're down in health, you drink a potion or you inject yourself with some magic serum to get back to full again. In this one, you have an inhaler, like if you have asthma, you put in the health juice and you ingest it and you get better. So normal. However, the inhaler actually has more space for other things. So as your science, I believe, stat gets better and better, you can incorporate more stuff into your health juice. So you can make a real strong cocktail. If you're playing a lot of games and you come across basically potions that you think that could be useful one day and you never ever use it, this is a good way to get some use out of them. If nothing else, being able to snort some armor increasing powder would decrease the amount in your inventory, so allow you more space for more guns. That I like, and it allows me to actually experiment with other cocktails. When it comes to the combat, I mentioned before, but melee is definitely a viable tactic, and there's a big difference between things like heavy hammers compared to a lot faster sabers and swords. So it really is a case of, if I want to do a certain combat style, I have the tools to do that. Range is similar as well, and you get all these standards like the pistols, shotguns, rifles, grenade launchers, they're fun, with all the futuristic ammunition types like plasma and N-rays, which are these purple things that make people go a bit crazy. So there is variety in how you kill people, for sure, but when it comes to the actual combat itself, it's okay, but it's definitely not the game's strongest feature. In that you can definitely tell this is an RPG game first and a first-person shooter second. It's not as crisp and as direct as something like, say, Apex Legends or Doom. And if you're a fan of seeing numbers come up whenever you shoot someone, then you're in luck here. And you will never be short of a firearm or pipe or anything like that. As soon as you kill a bunch of marauders, you can take their gear, although the model still has all the stuff anyway, like armor, so what exactly are you taking from them? And you do have things like weapon and armor durability, which you can repair when it comes to a workbench. So there is some maintenance involved, which is nice, and you can tinker with your stuff and add different weapon types or energy types, that kind of thing. Now, it is nowhere near as advanced as, say, Greedfall, but it is a bit simpler and you can do more fun things with your guns. You get all the different things like bigger stocks, iron sights, silencers for your pistols, lots of different ways you can have fun. If nothing else, the Outer Worlds does definitely encourage replayability and trying things a different way in a second or third playthrough. Now, on to graphics, and this is one where they were definitely influenced by, say, BioShock and other sci-fi-y retro places like that. I see some No Man's Sky in there as well. Lots of luminous colours and vibrancy. Definitely not a grey and brown corridor shooter by any means, although there are a few corridors in this too. Going underground is always fun with luminous mushrooms, and some of these skyboxes are a treasure to behold. Very nice in certain ways. However, we do have a problem, and that is with the textures. I was playing this on the Xbox One S, and some of these were just really bad. I mean, check out these lava textures, for example. Nyoka, who is one of my companions, has hair which just looks like neon red worms coming out of her head. Really rough looking, so more could have been done on that. I hear the Xbox One X has much better textures, but I don't have that, so you're stuck with what I've got. And also, with textures, pop-up. Sometimes I change to a different gun, and it looks absolutely awful, and then a split second later, and some detail comes in. So not the best when it comes to consistency. Now the music is quite good. I often found a few tunes which were like, you know what, that's quite good. It kind of varies, which is like the theme of a spacey western, very much like Firefly, so you'll have these long keyboard type pieces with long notes, very kind of like 50s B-movie type things, and then more guitar strumming when you get to an old western-like town. So definitely polished on that front, and the voice acting generally is quite good as well. All your companions have their own way of talking. Parvati definitely has a vocabulary from a different era, very westerny. Sam is great, particularly when he goes turd alert, he is a cleaning robot after all. And even the NPCs have their own character in a lot of ways. A lot of douchebags in this one, and a lot of old ladies who really want to get to know you a bit better.
Yes, indeed. Someone's got to keep Stellar Bay's people healthy and energized. Oh, but I am. I get to see plenty of my neighbors here, and I do dearly love a little gossip.
The general theme of this, by the way, is very light-hearted, kind of similar to Void Bastards in a way. Very kind of corporations now run the world, so everything is so bureaucratic. Everyone talks about forms to fill out and the correct process of doing things. A lot of times it made me chuckle, so the writing, for the most part, is on point. Now performance-wise, I am getting pretty tired of these loading screens. They were definitely a prevention from me enjoying the game to its full, although I did like all the little pulpy pictures they had, especially since they would react to your actions. So whatever happens to a town, you can decide one way or the other, and then your choice is reflected on a loading screen, which was a nice little touch like that. I had one crash on my Xbox, so not great, but one I guess is unavoidable. And there weren't any more other glitches that really came about. So on that front, it's a good, solid game. So on the whole, I did have a good time playing The Outer Worlds. I just wanted a bit more from the storyline. I wanted a bit more of a reason to be invested in what was going on, and sometimes the constant quirky comedy kinda got to me after a while. The action is fun, if a little shallow, and you get a lot of different toys to play with. There's no vehicles though in this, so don't expect to drive any mechs or planes, tanks, that kind of thing. And to me, it didn't feel rushed, but it felt like it was definitely missing some parts to it. I feel like it was more of a proof of concept type dealy, and they did have plans for further content in the future. Whether we see that or not, I don't know. Obsidian now have been purchased by Microsoft, and I think they are building them a new, more expensive RPG, so we'll see what comes of that. Oh, and where's my damn mini-map? Come on, it's a sci-fi game, put that in my HUD. Anyway, for me, The Outer Worlds gets the score of 3.5 depressed moon men out of 5. I don't think it's really worth full price, but if you can play it on the cheap or on Game Pass, then I think you'll have a good time with this. It's a solid single play experience, and hopefully Obsidian can really crank it out for the next generation. Anyway, that's all there is from me for this one. Thank you again for watching, and if you want to see more of my content, then please send me a subscribe, and I will try to get another one out as soon as possible. My next one is going to be WWE 2K20, and boy do I have a lot of things to say about that one. Anyway, enough of me, have a good one, next time. Bye!